Paraphrase. The definition is a restatement of a text, passage, or work, giving the meaning in another form. Why is this important? Well, for one, it's better than quoting information from an undistinguished passage. What's meant by undistinguished is that the words themselves are not super important. There's not a metaphor. There's not some particular connotation, a vibe that you really need to highlight in your writing. It's really just about the information that the writing contains. This also helps you to control the temptation to quote too much. And paraphrasing is something that we do on a daily basis, and it requires a deeper thinking because you have to understand what the original text meant in order to effectively paraphrase. Now, there's another special kind of cool type of paraphrased evidence, and this is when you're working with visual texts. You can't quote something if there are no words, right? You can't quote a certain image that's in a panel of a graphic novel. You can't quote something that's moving across your screen. So whenever we're using evidence, when we're essentially making evidence out of a visual text, we're paraphrasing. So let's take a look at a direct quote from last week's TED Talk, the one on grit. This is a large passage. Would I want to directly quote this? No, it's way too long, way too long. I went to teach 7th graders math in New York City public schools, and like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests. I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades, blah, blah, blah. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my strongest kids weren't doing so well. All right, how might we paraphrase this? One thing that's important to consider is, what's my TS? In other words, what's my topic sentence? Everything that we're doing with writing has to be framed in terms of purpose. So if in this case, I'm going to be using this direct quote, or I'm going to be looking at this, I'm going to be turning it into a paraphrase, and I want to use something from this section to prove or to discuss, to illustrate how Duckworth draws upon her experience teaching in making an observation about her students. Okay, so something to do with ethos. Okay, ethos is what we're going for when we're considering how we might paraphrase this. So let's work on it together. So I've got the start of it. Now let's add on. To illustrate Duckworth. And so now I need to try to take this and I want to condense it. I want to use elements of this information that are important without using all the words and without it stealing from her. So I'm going to say, to illustrate, Duckworth brings up her experience as a teacher and shares an observation about student success. Specifically, the relationship between intelligence and success wasn't always predictable. And then I'm still going to leave that parenthetical citation at the end, because just because it's a paraphrase doesn't mean that I don't need to cite it. So to illustrate, right, that's my transition. Duckworth brings up her experience as a teacher, right there. All of this stuff, I just summed it up into a few words, and shares an observation about student success, right? So I'm kind of saying what's sort of information I'm going to talk about before I talk about it. Then I use the colon because I just wanted to make it one big, nice sentence. If I had wanted to, I could have made basically a 2-sentence paraphrased evidence statement, but the colon works really nicely in this case to tie it together. Specifically, the relationship between intelligence and success wasn't always predictable. Okay. All right, that'll do. So if you're wondering, like, okay, all right, so you did this once, Miss Wright. Like, now what? Now what? What does this mean for me? I'm going to give you a little tool for when we paraphrase an informational text. You've got 4 steps: reword, rearrange, realize, and recheck. So the first part is you need to reword. Replace words and phrases with synonyms whenever you can. So if I'm looking back at this, she talked about IQ. I said intelligence instead. IQ stands for intelligence quotient. So there's an example of rewording. Another thing is she talked about scores and students, and I didn't use either of those words. Instead, I just talked about success and student success. Rearrange. Rearrange words within sentences to make new sentences. You can even rearrange the ideas presented within the paragraph. Did I rearrange? I didn't rearrange so much as just cut a bunch of stuff. Realize that some words and phrases cannot be changed. Names, dates, titles, etc. But you can present them differently in your paraphrase. So, like for example, there's nothing in here that I really needed to keep. But if there were another example where there was something that was like really data based, like a specific number or a specific name, I would need to keep that. Like, for example, the word grit. If the word grit were in this, I would need to keep the word grit because there's not really anything that's exactly the same as grit, but grit. And then recheck. Make sure your paraphrase conveys the same meaning as the original text. So let's take a look. I went to teach teachers. She said she's basically saying just regular teacher stuff. So brings up her experience as a teacher. Yep, that's doing that job. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference. Yes, et cetera, et cetera. So what struck me, that's what I meant by sharing an observation. That's something that was like a salient detail, something she noticed. Some of her strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest students weren't doing so well. So the relationship between intelligence and success wasn't always predictable. She was imagining, yes, the smartest kids in the class are always going to be the kids with the highest grades in the class. But what she noticed was that it didn't work out that way. So reword, rearrange, realize, and recheck. All right, let's try again. Do elite schools matter? This is from this week's reading. This week's reading is this article right here, The Myth of the College Dropout by Jonathan Y. and Heiner Rindemann. Okay. And where is this coming? This is the introduction. Right around here, I believe. Nope, do elite schools matter? I left that in. If you're wondering like why one thing looks different, I included this subheading because I think that's really important context that I want to work into that paraphrase. Okay. So we can see this year, elite schools saw an increase in applications and selectivity. Research suggests that there is no difference in adult income between students who attended highly selective schools and students with similar SAT scores who attended less selective schools. At least for long-term earnings, where you go may not be critical as long as you attend and graduate. So, what do I need to do? Well, I need to make sure I understand what this is saying, or else I won't be able to paraphrase, right? That's pretty basic. So I'm wondering selectivity. Does everybody know what selectivity means? Otherwise, I'm going to try to look it up. I'm going to go over here to my handy dandy Learner's Dictionary. And I'm going to just look up that word, selectivity. It means careful to choose only the best people or things. He was very selective, picky, choosy, highly selective. So only the best. All right. So now knowing that, that's something that I probably can incorporate into the paraphrase. For example, for instance, Wyatt and Rinderman how do I want to start? Saw an increase. Okay. I'm probably going to just ignore this, just so you know. Like, this is the other good thing about paraphrasing is it's a way to highlight what you think is really important and to kind of just get rid of things that are less important to your purposes. Research suggests there's no difference in adult income. Now, I know that this is going to be the kind of thing that you're going to want to put exactly the same, but that's exactly the kind of phrase that you need to reword, right? Because there's lots of different ways to say adult income besides adult income. Let's see. Wyatt and Rinderman observe. Let me check my last writing. I said observation, so I want to use a different word just because I like using different words. Wyatt and Rinderman bring up, conclude. Conclude, that's like kind of like saying, oh, they did all this research and then like this is what came out of it. They conclude that going to a college that is very difficult to get into. That sounds kind of funky, huh? Conclude that going to a college that is very, I'm just trying to say something besides selective or elite because those are words that are both used in the article. So that's why I'm kind of doing this wondering aloud right now. I know I need to reword, and I need to reword especially on certain key words that really make this passage sound how it sounds. So I need to not say potentially elite or say selective. So, I'm going to go about it differently. I'm going to say, for instance, and now I'm going to add more contextual lead in right here, more here, before I hit this like verb thing. Okay, so for instance, in response to the common question, do elite schools matter? I'll use the real quotes. So I'm using like a little bit of a quote, just like the subheading, so that then I don't have to like break my brain trying to figure out a different word for elite or selective. Wyatt and Rinderman explain, explain that that the kind of university somebody attends does not really make a large difference in long-term earnings. I'm gonna say long-term earnings. Oh, wait, they said long-term earnings. Okay, does not make a large difference over the course of one's life. That makes sense? Okay. For instance, in response to the common question, do elite schools matter? I need space. There we go. Wyatt and Rinderman explain that the kind of university somebody attends does not really make a large difference in terms of how much money they will make. I like that the best. And then I will go Wyatt and Rinderman. I don't have the page number because it was an online article. So what you saw just now is like going through these steps again. Like I did some rewording, I rearranged, I rechecked, right? I rechecked it, and then I kind of went back to it, and then I rechecked it again, and then I rechecked it again. So that's how we go from this big paragraph of like 1, to 3 sentences to just this one sentence paraphrase. For instance, in response to the common question, do elite schools matter? Wyatt and Ritterman explain that the kind of university somebody attends does not really make a large difference in terms of how much money they will make in their lifetime. Hey, there we go. I rechecked it another time. And now I don't like how that's fitting in that box, so I'm just going to make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, brain break. It is time for a little bit of one of my favorite silly channels, bad lip reading. And this is a really good example of what happens when you do not recheck, when you do not understand a text. You could end up with a paraphrase that feels like a bad lip reading.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Zuckerberg. How are you?
Just a sec. Mom, could you get me my Frodo ring? I want it here.
Okay, now that we got the ring sorted out, we can move on to the topic at hand, which is the concerns that have been raised. Need water, okay? Now, as I was saying, there's been a lot of concern about people's private information and how. Okay, how about you just chug the water? I want you to cut it off. Are you blowing bubbles? I'm gonna have to spank you. Okay, now you good? I swear, it's like he's got a mask on. Listen, kid, blink if you're not a lamp. Wow. We'd like you to make a little smile just to show that you can. Oh, good heavens, that's just horrible. Stop that, son. For the rest of the day, will you not do that, please?
So I have to admit that all of this is just boring as beans. And what are we talking about? And what am I going to ask? It was about, oh yeah. So when I have the Facebook, then do I also have the internet?
Yeah, you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just like everyone to know that my van is for sale.
Great.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about that.
All right, enough of that. But there you go. That was a little bit of, if you've never seen any bad lip reading before, just know that wasn't actually what they said. It's a really bad paraphrase, really bad transcription. So, part 2, paraphrasing is essential when working with visual texts. Videos, right? Because it's a mix of movement and sound and words. You want to use all those different things as evidence. You don't want to just only use the words. So you got to paraphrase. Art, photos, etc., right? All those images. So here's the deal. You have to make your paraphrased evidence, you have to make the evidence in a way by being specific and descriptive. All right. So all the times in all your classes that you've done a see, think, wonder, paraphrasing evidence that's visual or that's sound is all about that see step, not think, not wonder, but see. What do you see or what do you hear? Specific. That means not vague or general. Like I would not want to say, for example, there is an ad on a bus stop. That's not enough, right? That's not enough specific information. Sure, it's an ad, obviously. But it's a Kit Kat ad. Okay. What more can I say? Here's the descriptive part. It is a Kit Kat ad that is designed to look like a Google Calendar. In the Google Calendar, we can see hour after hour of red marking what? That somebody is unavailable with Zoom call after Zoom call. Right? That would be being specific and descriptive, except for 2-hour blocks, which are Kit Kats. All right, so let's practice with a TikTok because this is something that you may be doing this week. So I'm giving you the TS here because I think it's important that you know what direction to go, right? visuals are rich with meaning. You could describe a lot of things, even in a short little video. So we're trying to come up with a piece of evidence to support this topic sentence. And here's what I'm going to say. My topic sentence: University of Notre Dame's admissions office effectively achieves its purpose of informing curious students about what an average day is like and persuading them to believe that Notre Dame is a great place to live and study through a strong appeal to pathos. All right, so we're looking for an example of pathos in this video. So things that we're going to think about. Pathos is emotion. What are things that are emotional? Like if somebody like reacts emotionally. Another thing that could be considered pathos is beauty, right? When something is beautiful, that just like makes us feel things. So for quite one of the strongest reasons why I actually ended up attending the University of Notre Dame is because it is compellingly beautiful there. All right, so let's watch this and then try to make an example.
Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is a Notre Dame day in my life. I started off with some breakfast before heading over to the library to go to one of my Zoom classes. This is my college seminar, super fun. Ooh, we got a little bit of a dome check before heading over to my second class of the day, which was in Bond Hall. It was an education class, and I loved it. Had a little bit of lunch before heading over to the Jordan Hall of Science. Ooh, super, super beautiful. Did a little bit of work in the study room. Love the windows, super nice. Got to hang out with one of my friends for a little bit before going to my biostatistics tutorial. After that, I had some dinner with some dorm friends, super yummy. And then I had my student union board meeting. This is a little bit of what I was working on. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. Let me know if you have questions, and go Irish.
All right, so let's see.
Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is a
Like,
Notre
look at
Dame
that.
day in my life.
Look at how beautiful. I'm just going to go with the very first thing because I think what a creator, whether it be an author or a speaker or a TikToker, whatever you do first is pretty meaningful, especially in the context of TikTok, where if you don't grab people's attention quickly, they're about to just scroll, right? So okay.
Hi, my name.
Okay. So now I wish I could like pause it on there, but for example, the first shot of the TikTok is a slow pan. It's okay if you don't know that term. I'm going to rely a little bit on my knowledge of a little bit of just some basic like film terminology just to just cuz because it's what I rely on. Okay, anyway, so it's a slow is it a slow pan? I'm gonna look.
Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is a Notre Dame day in my life.
It's not slow because nothing's slow in TikTok. Is landscape shot is a shot of a beautiful. No, because that's not descriptive enough. A shot of the Notre Dame campus on a snowy, sunny day. Okay, how much more descriptive can I be? Let's watch it again.
Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is a Notre Dame day in my life. I started off with some breakfast before.
The snow is bright white, and a golden dome gleams in the distance. Right? Did you catch that? Look at that. Oh, look at there's like that beautiful dome. There's like these little other things. Okay. So, for example, the first shot of the TikTok is the first shot of the TikTok that's repetitive shows the Notre Dame campus on a snowy, sunny day. The snow is bright white and a golden dome gleams in the distance against the bright blue sky. Hey, there we go. Very specific. Very descriptive. And we don't have like a regular traditional author, but I'm going to use, I can see the username there is at ND Admissions. All right, so there we go. That would be my evidence of something that's not in words. The first shot of the TikTok shows the Notre Dame campus on a snowy, sunny day. The snow is bright white, and a golden dome gleams in the distance against the bright blue sky. One note, like you can see, this is a reason why I don't tell you how many sentences a paragraph needs to be, because this is one ES, one evidence statement, and it's 2 sentences, because you know what? That's what I needed, and it's fine. Okay, let's try again with that same video. So let's see. Later. So
Hi, my name's
I'm just gonna like skip ahead.
Hi, my name's Nicole. Had a little bit of lunch before heading over to the
That's
Jordan
not
Hall
that
of
beautiful.
Science. Oops, super beautiful.
Right? Hey, that is so beautiful. And then it's funny because then she's mentioning super, super beautiful. So later on, the narrator, I'm just going to say the narrator. The narrator takes the viewer into, and where did she say she was? Jordan Hall of Science?
Hi, my name's of the day, which was in Bond Hall, education class. A bit of lunch before heading over
Jordan
to the Jordan
Hall of Science. Okay. Into Jordan Hall of Science. Now, thinking back to these steps of paraphrasing, we know that we're not going to reword the name of Jordan Hall because that's the name of that particular residence hall. So that's okay. Like, that's not plagiarism for us to keep that. The narrator takes a viewer into the Jordan Hall of Science, pointing the camera upward to highlight I'm going to say something about the architecture.
Hi. Had a little bit of lunch before heading over to the Jordan Hall of Science. Oops, super.
There we go. Pointing the camera upward to highlight the like color, the height of the space. I think that's what's really beautiful about it. The height and the color contrast. The high ceilings, the high ceilings, rich wood details, and of the space. No, that's weird. I gotta say something else.
Hi, my name's Nicole, and this is a note. Did a little bit of work in this science. Oops, super beautiful. Did a little bit of work in this
color contrast. That's what I wanted to say. The high ceilings, color contrast. Beautiful contrast between white walls and the beautiful contrast between white walls and rich wood details. Later, the narrator takes a viewer into the Jordan Hall of Science, pointing the camera upward to highlight the high ceilings and the beautiful contrast, and the stark contrast. No, but stark. The contrast between the white walls and rich wood details of the space. And then at ND Admissions. Okay. There we go. Honestly, I would probably fiddle with it some more, but I don't want to make this video longer. So, paraphrasing recap. Reword, rearrange, realize, recheck. Recheck. Like, really, you got to recheck a bunch. Otherwise, if you get it wrong, you're going to end up like that. Okay, rechecking is crucial. If you don't understand the writing, you won't be able to effectively paraphrase. So get a second opinion. Also, same if you're doing this kind of paraphrasing, Share it with somebody else and say, is that accurate? Does that make sense? Am I being specific enough? When making an ES out of still image or video, be extremely specific and descriptive. Don't interpret or make inferences. That's what your analysis should be. That's why I removed the word beautiful, because then I'm like gonna look at it again.
Hi, my name's Nicole. Super, super beautiful.
I would then say, like, that's beautiful. I would talk about the beauty of it in my analysis and relate beauty to pathos and how that like makes us feel things when we see such a beautiful space, right? You get that sense of awe because the ceilings are so high and like you can see like all the natural light. I would add that to my ES too if I weren't concerned about time on this video. And so that's why you want to just keep it really descriptive. Okay? All right. That's it. Paraphrasing, reword, realize, rearrange, realize, recheck, recheck, recheck. You got this.